The rules were simple, until hearts got involved. Welcome back to the world of Tangled Games, where love and lies collide in ways no one saw coming. In part 2 of Leigh's captivating dating games series, the stakes are higher, the emotions are deeper, and the chemistry absolutely off the charts. Harley and Easton thought they could keep things casual, just a game, no strings, no feelings. But the lines between pretend and reality are blurring fast, and what started as a playful distraction is threatening to become something much more serious. As secrets from the past begin to surface and trust is put to the ultimate test, Harley must decide whether she's ready to risk it all for a love that might not survive the spotlight. With K. Leigh's signature mix of wit, heat, and heart, this audiobook delivers a story that's as addictive as it is emotionally raw. If you thought the first part left you breathless, prepare for an even wilder ride. So buckle up, press play, and dive back into the tangled world where love was never supposed to be part of the plan. But maybe it was the endgame all along. Chapter 9. Nora. I rest my forearms against the railing of the spacious balcony off Anderson's private quarters, inhaling the fresh air, hoping it helps me stay awake when I'd love nothing more than to fall asleep. I doubt I'd be able to sleep, though. My mind is far too preoccupied with what could be going on at Anderson's meeting with his father. I doubt they're talking about the latest rugby match or polo game, or whatever it is royal people from Europe discuss. They're talking about me, about whether I'm good enough for Anderson, whether I'm good enough to be his wife, to one day be queen. Years of being made to feel inadequate by my mother bubble to the surface. I fight to push down her biting reminders that I'm not good enough, that I'm a failure, that I'll never amount to anything. I close my eyes, practicing my breathing, inhaling only positive energy while pushing out all the negativity, or at least try to. It doesn't work as well as it once did. Right now, there's a lot of negativity in my life. A pair of warm lips against my shoulder blade takes me by surprise. In a heartbeat. I no longer need my breathing exercises to relax, my body succumbing to Anderson's soothing caress. There was once a time when meditating and yoga were the only way I could find peace and quiet my mind. Now it's Anderson. His touch is all I need to erase my worry. As long as he's here, everything else is just noise. Tranquility encompasses me as he runs his hands down my arms, then pulls my body into his, my back to his front. I don't ask how his meeting went. Don't want to ruin this moment. Instead, I bask in the love radiating from his embrace as we peer at the breathtaking view of the magnificent gardens leading to jagged cliffs, miles of ocean stretching out below them. It's reminiscent of Hawaii, if Hawaii had more of a European flair. I wonder if this is what the French Riviera is like, or the Amalfi Coast. 2 places Anderson said we'd visit at some point. Will we still have that chance? Or is everything about to be ripped from under us? Want to go for a walk? Anderson eventually asks. When I turn around, he drops his hold, and I peer into his eyes for the first time since he arrived home. In that one look, I can tell things didn't go as he'd hoped. Is this a good walk, or a bad walk? He smiles and reaches for my hand, our fingers interlocking. That all depends on you. Okay. I force a smile. Let's go for a walk. He leads me back into the bedroom, through the living area, and out into the hallway. Neither of us says a single word as we walk through his estate, any staff we encounter bowing or curtsying as we pass. I've only been here a few hours, but knowing I'm constantly being watched already suffocates me, as if Anderson can sense my discomfort. He quickens his pace to the double doors leading to the gardens. Once we step outside, I inhale a deep breath, the chains seeming to cut off my oxygen falling away. I steal a glance at Anderson, his own expression similar to mine. This way, he murmurs. Hand in hand, we stroll along the flower-lined paths. The sweet aroma fills me, making me forget everything. Even if for only a minute, As we near the edge of his property, the breeze picks up, blowing my hair in front of my face. He leads me to a bench and gestures for me to sit. Then he joins me, his gaze focused on the sparkling ocean sprawled out before us. The sun setting on the horizon casts a peaceful glow over our surroundings. When Anderson gave me a tour of the estate and grounds earlier, he'd remarked that this was the place he often went if he needed to clear his mind. I can see why. The crashing waves of the ocean below, coupled with the lush greenery around us, is a sight to behold. Makes you forget that only a few hundred yards away sits a building that's more a prison than a place to call home. At least that's the feeling I get when inside its walls. But out here, I feel free. And by the look of serenity on Anderson's expression, I assume he does, too. This world is vastly different from what you're used to, he says after a protracted pause. It's not a question, so I don't respond, granting him this opportunity to sort out his own thoughts. And not just the different electrical outlets and the side of the road we drive on, he adds, his voice lightening momentarily. But my world is different from yours. He shifts his gaze toward mine, the glow from the sunset reflecting in his vibrant blue eyes. Truthfully, there's a lot I've kept from you. Not because I didn't want you to know, but because I didn't want you to think I don't appreciate the opportunity I have, that I take my position for granted. I'm grateful to be in a position where I can potentially make a difference in people's lives. As cliché and idealistic as that sounds, his lips press together into a tight smile. Then he turns his eyes forward once more. Unfortunately, this world sometimes has its drawbacks. Our lives are under a microscope on a daily basis. People dig deep for any hint of vulnerability or weakness that can be exploited. And that's especially true now with the referendum on the ballot. I scrunch my brows. Referendum. It happens occasionally. A referendum to amend the Constitution to either severely limit the monarch's power or abolish the monarchy altogether in favor of a true parliamentary government gains enough support to go to the voters on election day. If it's a monarchy, people still get to vote, I ask, wishing I'd done a little more research on how this form of government functioned. In a constitutional monarchy, the king is akin to your president, with the executive council having powers similar to that of your cabinet, all of whom are elected by the people. That's simply the executive branch, like you. We also have a legislative and judicial branch. The judicial branch is appointed by the executive council, with the monarch's approval. And the legislative branch is a unicameral house of elected representatives. Each branch functions much like you're accustomed to. The legislative makes the laws. The executive carries out and enforces the laws, with a limited power to enact certain orders, as well. And the judicial branch adjudicates any disagreements regarding laws that have been passed. So you're telling me I should have paid more attention during my world political systems class in college? Probably not a bad idea. He chuckles, his eyes lighting up in amusement. It only lasts a second, but I'll take what I can get. As I was saying, there's a referendum on the ballot to limit the monarch's power. We'd still be a constitutional monarchy. But if it passes, the bulk of the executive power will now be placed in a prime minister elected by the people, the monarch only retaining certain limited powers, much like is currently in place in the UK. This country is one of the last remaining true constitutional monarchies where the monarch still retains quite a bit of executive power. I think it's partly because of an unspoken rule that when a monarch reaches the age of 65, he or she will voluntarily abdicate. Because of all of this, every decision must be carefully weighed, all the potential public relations issues evaluated in terms of how it will affect the monarchy, how it will affect the referendum vote. He glances at me. Even decisions of a more personal nature. I lower my eyes, fidgeting with the hem of my skirt, an unsettling premonition forming in the pit of my stomach that this constitutional referendum is about to wreak havoc on our lives, that the leak of our engagement isn't helping matters. Your father doesn't like the idea of us getting married. He was more surprised by it than anything. He didn't think we were as serious as we are. He sighs, rubbing the back of his neck. He'd have no reason to, I suppose. I don't have the kind of relationship with him where I share what's going on in my personal life. Most of his updates about me come from his private secretary. It was my grandmother and the head of household, Dalton Peel, who were quite opposed, particularly the head of household. Head of household, I blink, confused, like the main butler or something? No. The head of household is similar to what you know as your president's chief of staff. He's essentially in charge of the entire royal household, which basically means he's in charge of the entire monarchy. He's the only person on the executive council who isn't elected, but appointed by the king, and he's also my father's most senior member of his privy council. And what's the privy council? An advisory committee to the monarch. Whereas the executive council offers the king advice on matters of state, the privy council advises the monarch on matters of, well, the monarchy, our history, our traditions, our public image. I take a minute to process this new information, my brain on the verge of exploding. Now I really wish I'd learned more about this concept of government. At least that would have given me a foot up, so to speak. So your grandmother and your father's most trusted advisor are against us. I glance at Anderson. Isn't it the king's decision to grant us permission to marry technically? Yes, but in all matters relating to the monarchy, the king listens to his privy council's advice, as well as the advice of certain members of the royal household, like your grandmother. Yes, although she's more accurately a member of the royal family. I dig my fingers through my hair, pulling at it. You do realize how confusing this all sounds, right? Especially to an outsider. I'm sorry I didn't bring you up to speed on this ahead of time. I still occasionally get confused about how everything works, so I can only imagine how you must feel. Simplest explanation. The royal family includes the people in the line of succession, as well as certain people who were formerly married to a deceased monarch, like my grandmother. The royal household includes everyone who works behind the scenes to make the royal family look good: privy council members, private secretaries, publicists. In reality, they're the ones who keep the monarchy alive and going. The ones who make a lot of the decisions. Imagine this life as a chessboard. The members of the royal family are the game pieces. The royal household are the chess masters. I see. I stare forward, the last bit of daylight slowly disappearing beyond the horizon. And these so-called chess masters would prefer if I weren't part of the game. I'm not going to keep anything from you, Nora. His firm tone forces my gaze back to his. I survey his appearance, muscles taut, jaw clenched. You may not like some of the things I'm about to tell you. I didn't like hearing them earlier. But there are quite a few people in the royal household and royal family who do not support us as a couple, who think I should marry someone more appropriate, someone who's been around this life, who grew up in it. So this is your way of letting me down easy, I reply in a shaky voice, running my clammy hands along my dress. Tell me your father won't give his approval. Actually, no. I tilt my head. No. Getting the monarch's permission is more of a formality. Not to mention, it would look bad if he were to publicly denounce our engagement after it made headlines. If he approves, then I told them about the pregnancy. Oh, I shrink into myself, hugging my arms around my body as a sudden chill overtakes me. He blows out a frustrated laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. It wasn't my intention. But Dalton and my grandmother kept going on and on about Caroline being able to conceive a child and not knowing whether you were able to. What a second. I furrow my brow, recalling a few reporters shouting that name earlier. Who's Caroline? He smiles sadly. Caroline DeVries. After Kendall died, we had a thing. Nothing emotional. Purely physical. She was someone who could help me forget. He turns his gaze in my direction, mouth quirking into a sheepish smile. I'm sorry. I rest my hand over his and squeeze. I did the same thing after Hunter. It's how I ended up marrying Jeremy. He helped me forget. We tried to keep whatever we had going on under wraps. But the paparazzi found us together on the French Riviera, and the photos went viral. Since then, the entire country assumed we'd eventually get married. Saw her as someone who helped heal my broken heart, even though neither of us were interested in anything serious. We had an arrangement we'd hoped to keep quiet. As a royal, if you go public with a relationship, hell, if you're frequently seen in public together with the same person, you'd better be ready to announce your wedding date. We went our separate ways roughly 3 years ago, right after the photos were leaked. But that didn't stop the rumors from circulating, especially whenever we were photographed together at an event we both just happened to be at. He brings his gaze back to mine as he clutches my hands in his. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about her sooner. I do know you've been with women before me. Anders, you have nothing to apologize for, as long as you haven't been with anyone since we got together. That's all I care about. And I haven't. He cups my cheek. How could I be with someone when you're the only woman who possesses my heart? On a sigh, I angle toward him, my lips seeking his. He tugs me closer, his fingers digging into my hair. A part of me wants to crawl on top of him so we can continue what we started earlier. But we need to finish this conversation, not remain blissfully ignorant of it, like we've spent the past several months of our relationship. When Anderson brings our kiss to an end, I straighten, smiling sadly at him. I imagine nobody bent over backwards to offer their congratulations when they heard about the pregnancy. That may be the understatement of the century. He scoffs with a roll of his eyes. They brought up a few things I absolutely will not repeat to you because their suggestions aren't even an option to me. What did they propose? He gives me a grave look, and I know precisely what he's referring to. A chill washes down my spine. Oh, I refused. Told them that to even suggest such a thing was an insult to me and the child who would eventually become their king or queen. He places his hand over my stomach. I grit out a smile, pretending to have the same enthusiasm over the pregnancy as Anderson seems to. I'm trying so hard to be excited, but I still live with the fear of something going wrong. Still remember enduring over 20 hours of labor, knowing full well I wouldn't be greeted with a crying baby, wouldn't peer into her vibrant eyes and marvel at this human I created, wouldn't bask in her tiny hands wrapping around my finger. Instead, all I had was mere minutes to hold her lifeless body before she was taken from me. I am absolutely petrified of going through that again, which was when I was reminded about the laws of succession and illegitimacy. Illegitimacy. He slowly nods. If our child is born outside of wedlock, he or she won't be considered an heir, won't be considered part of the royal family, won't ascend to the crown, so will need to marry before he or she is born. Not just before the birth. They want us to marry before it's obvious. My father suggested within the next 8 weeks. 8 weeks. It won't take a genius to figure it out, especially once the baby is born. All it will take is some simple math. I said the same thing, but he believes people will be so distracted by the wedding, then the pregnancy announcement, that they'll be too excited to do the math. By the time the baby's born and anyone does stop to do the math, the referendum vote will be behind us. But 8 weeks, I protest once more. Evie and Chloe are in their 3rd trimester. They can't travel. I wish I had an answer, but I don't. This is the only way for our child to be considered an heir and part of the royal family. I swallow past the lump in my throat, frustration heating my face. I knew whatever kept Anderson at the palace most of the afternoon wouldn't be happy news. I just didn't expect this. I thought we'd have more time, would be able to acclimate ourselves to this life together in Belmont. Then as new parents, then as a married couple. Thought I'd be able to have my friends by my side at my wedding to the man of my dreams. That plan has disappeared in the blink of an eye. And if we don't agree to their proposal, if we still want to do things our way, get married on our own schedule after the baby is born, my father will be forced to rescind his approval. What I exclaim, "Why the Royal Marriages Act?" he says with a shrug. It automatically revokes any approval the king's given to an heir and a person of loose morals. Loose morals. What the hell is this puritanical England? It was written in the early 18th century in order to ensure only people of the highest standards marry into the royal family. Prevent scandal. Unfortunately, one of the examples written into the act is someone having a child outside of wedlock. Unbelievable. The chains around me tighten with every word Anderson speaks. I haven't even been here a full day, and can already say with unequivocal certainty that the fairy tales many little girls grow up obsessing over are a bunch of bullshit. A girl doesn't meet a prince and get to ride into the sunset without a care in the world. No, they must get the monarch's permission, which can be revoked at any time. And if you were to marry me without the king's approval, I'd lose my place in the line of succession and would no longer be a member of the royal family. So the only way for you to be king and us to stay together is to marry soon. I'm afraid so. I squeeze my eyes shut and draw in a deep breath. Positive energy in, negative energy out. I could exhale for the next 100 years and doubt I'd be able to expel all the negative energy in this place. Nora, listen to me. Anderson's urgent voice cuts through. I turn my eyes toward his. He takes my hands in his, clutching them tightly. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do. Only you can decide if this is really what you want. But I want you to be aware of what you'll have to give up. Your privacy, your anonymity, your independence. It will all disappear, and you'll never be able to get it back. Right now, you can walk away. It will absolutely shatter me. But I won't be angry. I will completely understand. After everything you've been through, you deserve to be deliriously happy. Unfortunately, I don't have that same option. I can't walk away. As frustrated as I am at times with the politics at play, especially within the royal household, I still love this country and its people. I want to do right by them. I want to be their leader, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself for me. I peer forward, watching as the ocean waves crash against the rocky shoreline in the distance. It reminds me of Manderley, the fictional estate from Rebecca, the stunning interior cared for by a silent staff, gorgeous gardens that are home to a fragrant array of blooms, the mysterious ocean nearby where the title character sank to a watery grave. Will our story end much like that of the unnamed narrator and Maxim de Winter, who was driven from a home haunted by custom and protocol? Or will we find our own happily ever after? Despite all the forces working against us, I bring my gaze back to Anderson, admiring his stoic profile. Is it worth it? I know my answer will probably surprise you, considering everything we're currently facing. But yes. A subtle smile curves his mouth. It's worth it. I've probably made this life sound horrible, but it's not all bad. I'm lucky to be blessed with an opportunity to do good, not only in this country, but in the world, to bring attention to a variety of causes. Truthfully, the majority of the job is great, and the rest of it. He pushes out a breath. It can be frustrating and exhausting. As a royal, you're held to a higher standard, a more moral standard, I suppose. My mother had this saying when we were kids, especially after my uncle and cousins died. Something she said to me whenever I complained about being in a London boarding school and missing my home and friends. What's that? With great power comes great purpose. Sadness hints at the lines of his face as he recalls his mother, or at least what he can remember of her after having lost her when he was only 10. I'd like to think I've lived most of my adult life according to that motto, that my family may possess a great deal of power in this country, but that we use it for good, for a purpose. And you can, too. But only if this is what you truly want. He reaches into his pocket before extending his hand toward me, revealing a single penny in his palm. What do you say? Should we toss a coin to help you decide? He narrows his gaze on me. Nostalgia tugs on my heartstrings. After all, it was a coin toss that led me to join Anderson on our Route 66 adventure in the first place. But I didn't toss the coin so it would tell me what I should do. I did so because, while that coin was in the air, it helped me realize what I really wanted. I stare at the penny in his outstretched hand, smiling at the memory of the cocky stranger who tried to impress me with his knowledge of the plot to steal Lincoln's body. How I knew my life would never be the same from that moment. How I knew I was at a crossroads of my life, just like I am now. I lift my eyes to his, a dozen emotions swirling within his depths. I'm not going to toss that coin. Anderson. He briefly closes his eyes, his shoulders falling. I understand. I don't need to. He flings his gaze to mine. You're my true north. I rest my hand over his heart, the compass tattoo hidden beneath the fabric of his suit. No matter the obstacles thrown our way, I will always come back to you. His entire body goes slack as the tension rolls off him. He covers my hand with his, keeping it firmly on his chest. They can try to tear us apart all they want. But even when you try to smash a compass to pieces, do you know what happens? It will still point north. He answers with a hint of a smile. It will still point north. No matter what happens in these next few weeks or months, you can be sure of one thing, that my heart will always bring me back to you. His grip on my hand tightens as he presses his mouth to mine, pouring all the emotions he's experienced today into his kiss. Happiness, worry, despair, desperation, frustration, and love, which shines through above everything else. I have to believe this once-in-a-lifetime love we've found in each other will be enough for us to navigate the rough waters ahead. When he pulls back, he's no longer the haunted, tortured man he was mere seconds ago. He's back to being the cocky, confident man I couldn't help but fall in love with. What do you say we finish what we started earlier? He waggles his brows, leering at my chest as he lasciviously licks his lips. Why, Your Highness. I bring my mouth back toward his. That may be the best idea you've had all day. Before I can utter a single syllable, Anderson jumps to his feet and scoops me into his arms. Laughter falls from my throat as he rushes me through the gardens and into the house, peppering kisses along my neck. My squeals of joy echo through the halls. I doubt anyone on the household staff has ever seen anything like this, considering their stunned expressions as we pass. They'd better get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere. Chapter 10. Anderson. I lower myself to the edge of the bed, pushing a few strands of Nora's high R behind her ear, admiring her as she sleeps. I need to wake her up, but hate the idea of disturbing her. Not when these few quiet seconds may be the last she has for the foreseeable future. Today, life as she knows it will change, as if it didn't change when she stepped off the plane yesterday and was bombarded by an angry mob who doesn't think she's good enough to marry their prince. Now, in mere hours, my father will publicly announce his approval of our engagement, as well as our wedding in 8 weeks. Gone is the quiet life she once led. Her privacy, gone. Her independence, gone. Her ability to go to the local cafe for a coffee, gone. From today forward, she will no longer be an unknown woman trying to make her way in the world. She'll become Crown Prince Gabriel of Belmont's fiancé, the future Crown Princess and Queen Consort. I still question whether I'm worthy enough of everything she's agreed to sacrifice for me: her home, her career, having her best friends at her side as she marries me. But I'll make every effort to prove I am. As if sensing my eyes on her, she stirs, rolling onto her back and meeting my gaze. Do you like watching me sleep or something, she asks, her voice lazy. I just like looking at you. I lower my lips to hers. Can't believe I'm the lucky bastard who gets to do that every day for the rest of my life. She moans into my kiss, her fingers raking through my hair. What I wouldn't give to spend all day with Nora in bed. But that's not our life anymore. It's a new world for us. And it starts today. Reluctantly, I pull back. "You're up early," she comments, trailing her fingers down my suit-clad chest, "and already dressed. It's officially a workday for me. And your first day of work, too." She briefly closes her eyes, drawing in a deep breath. "We're really doing this, aren't we?" I blow out a nervous laugh. "Unless you've had a change of heart." "Nah. I mean, maybe if you didn't make me come." "What was it?" 3 times last night. Actually, 4. She scrunches her brows. "Really, I believe so." I count off on my fingers. First there was in bed with my tongue. Right. Then when you rode me. Her pupils dilate. That was fucking intense. Bloody right it was. I chew on my lower lip, desire coiling in my stomach from the mere memory. Then in the shower with my mouth again. Exactly. And that was the last one. So, 3. I slowly shake my head. Don't even try to deny it. "Love, I felt you go again when I took you from behind right after that. You just said it yourself. It was right after. So that very well could have been merely a continuation of the same orgasm. There must be a rule somewhere about how much time is required between orgasms to classify them as 2 separate events." Barking out a chuckle, I grab her exposed nipple between my thumb and forefinger. "Perhaps, but I'm claiming 4. We can always test your theory later. See what kind of lapse in time is required." Her eyes flutter closed as her body warms under my touch. I really like the sound of that, as do I. I cover her mouth with mine, continuing to tweak her nipple, and she whimpers into me. I deepen our kiss, my tongue swiping against hers for a moment before I pull back, dropping my hold on her and rising to my feet. But for now, it's going to have to wait. "Grr, did you just growl at me?" She throws the covers off her body and stands. "Can you blame me yesterday afternoon? I was on the brink of a mind-blowing orgasm before you got called away. And now you're getting me all worked up again just to walk away without so much as a quickie before we have to endure a day full of press conferences and media appearances. Does that about sum it up?" She places her hands on her hips in feigned irritation, not caring one bit she's completely naked. This is one of the many things I love about her. The way she's so at ease around me that she has absolutely no problem walking around our apartment in barely any clothes. Or at least our old apartment. I doubt she'll ever feel comfortable enough to do that here. Not with the risk of anyone stopping by at all hours of the day and night. Sounds about right. I hook an arm around her waist, pulling her to me. "But think how great tonight will be." She tilts her head back and skims her lips against mine as she reaches for my crotch. "True, but think how amazing right now could be." She moves from my lips to my neck, nibbling along my earlobe. It would be a real shame if I had to put one of my vibrators to use when I have a perfectly good fiancé. I'd hate to have to ask the butler if he has a charging adapter for Mr. Rolls. I pull back, brows furrowed. "Mr. Rolls? Yeah. You know, the Rolls-Royce of vibrators." Eyes flaming. I yank her harder into me and press my arousal against her. "You little vixen. Do you feel what you do to me a minute ago?" I was completely limp. Now, I can't leave unless I relieve some of this pressure. Is that right? Her sultry voice sends a thrill down my spine, my hunger for her increasing with every heartbeat. "You know it is." I nip at her lower lip, eliciting a moan. "Well, then," she pushes against me, freeing herself from my grasp. Swaying her hips, she walks over to the bed and gets on her hands and knees, facing away from me. This woman constantly surprises me. When I don't think she could possibly do anything else to steal my breath and remind me how damn lucky I am to have her. She proves me wrong. And it's not because she's more than eager to have a quick romp before breakfast. It's because she trusts me enough to expose herself like this to me. She glances over her shoulder, eyes dark with desire. We don't want you suffering from a case of blue balls, do we? I hastily make my way toward her, only taking the time to discard my jacket before unzipping my pants and thrusting into her. This isn't how I saw the start of my day going, but I'd be crazy to complain. Good morning, Your Highness. Richard greets me with a bow the second I sit down at the head of the table in the formal dining room. Your usual breakfast and coffee. Just coffee for now. Richard. I do my best to keep my tone as professional and even as possible, despite the fact I'm struggling to catch my breath after the incredible sex I just had. I can only imagine how flushed my complexion must still be, how mussed up my hair is, but it was completely worth it. Anything to make Nora feel loved is worth it. Ms. Tremblay will be joining me shortly. Of course, sir. He nods, then spins, leaving through the server's door on the far side of the room. I grab a copy of the New York Times from the table and unfold it as I glance around. A few members of the household staff are stationed in the corners of the room, as stoic and unmoving as statues, only coming to life when ordered to do so. Here you are, sir, Richard says, placing my coffee mug and saucer in front of me. Is there anything else I can get for you right now? I'll wait to order until Ms. Tremblay arrives. Certainly, sir. He bows and starts to leave. And Richard. Yes. Please inform Lieutenant Colonel Bridge to hold off on his morning briefing until Ms. Tremblay is here. Going forward, she'll need to be a part of them, since my schedule will also affect her. He nods. I'll make sure he gets the message. Thank you. He bows once more, then retreats, leaving me to enjoy the last few moments of calm before the day becomes one engagement after another. As much as I should find some sort of familiarity in being in the same room, I've begun each of my days while in residence here. It's lacking. The one thing that does bring me comfort is turning to the New York Times, like I did each morning in New York. As does the smell of Nora still on my fingers whenever I bring my coffee to my mouth. While I wait for her to join me, I peruse the various national newspapers I request be delivered every morning. After nearly an hour, I begin to wonder if I should go check on her when the door to the dining room opens. I snap my head in that direction as Richard enters and stops past the entrance, body stiff, as if at attention. When Nora steps in behind him, all the oxygen is ripped from my lungs, leaving me breathless, thoughtless, mindless. If I didn't know better, I'd think Grace Kelly herself came back from the dead and just sauntered into my dining room. It's remarkable how much Nora resembles her, apart from her hair having a bit more strawberry in it than the first American princess had. She glides into the room, as if she's walking on air, as if she were made for this life. Even the few other attendants can't help but stare. I all but forget the manners that have been drilled into me, too stunned by how incredible she looks. It's not until she's within a few inches that I remember to stand to greet her. I brush my lips against her cheek, then step back, admiring the green and white floral dress that's slim through the waist, then flares in a style similar to what Grace Kelly once wore. And in typical Grace Kelly style, Nora completed the look with a simple strand of pearls around her neck and one in each ear. You look beautiful, Nora, like a princess. Good. She laughs nervously. Because I feel like an imposter. I hold her face in my hands, my gaze unwavering. You're only an imposter if you let them think you are. And from where I'm standing, you're the real deal. She gives me a smile as I help her into the chair kitty-corner to me. The second we're seated, Richard approaches. What would you like to drink this morning, my lady? Obviously taken aback at the way he addressed her. Nora stiffens before recovering, playing the part of my future queen with ease. Decaf, please. Just a touch of cream and one stevia sweetener, if you have it. Of course, ma'am. He smiles, then looks toward me. What would your highness like for breakfast this morning? I peer at Nora, silently asking her if she has any preference. Her expression is uneasy as she fidgets with her hands in her lap. She seems overwhelmed enough as it is, so I order for us. We'll both have 2 eggs, over easy, buttered toast, and fruit. Yes, sir. He bows, then retreats. It's going to take me a bit to get used to all of this, she comments under her breath once he's out of earshot. I'm used to being able to eat breakfast in just a t-shirt, my hair knotted in a messy bun. I fold the newspaper and push it away, grabbing her hand in mine, giving it a squeeze. And you're just as gorgeous in a t-shirt. You're only saying that because I wasn't wearing any pants in that scenario. I pinch my lips into a tight line. Perhaps. I waggle my brows as I lean toward her, sliding my hand up her thigh. But you're not wearing any pants right now, either. She playfully swats me away. Fiend. Only for you. Hearing a throat clear. I look up as Lieutenant Colonel Bridge walks up to the table. I'd love to tell him to wait until we've at least eaten, but this morning's activities have already put us behind schedule. Your Highness. He bows, then turns toward Nora. My lady. He meets my stare once more. If you're agreeable, I think it's best if we go over today's agenda. I nod, gesturing to the chair opposite Nora. He unbuttons his suit jacket as he sits and sets his tablet on the surface in front of him, but his posture is still straight. Today is a light day because of the announcement. He looks at Nora as Richard places her coffee in front of her. Tomorrow will be rather hectic for you, my lady. Once you're announced as Prince Gabriel's fiancée, you'll be assigned your own private secretary to manage your daily calendar, which will be synced with Prince Gabriel's. You'll also have your own PR team to take care of any and all publicity. I'm sure His Highness has already advised you, but going forward, it's best if you restrict any of your social media time. In fact, your PR team will most likely advise you to close all your current accounts and start new ones, which they will manage on your behalf. But all my profiles are private. Only my friends can see what I post. Once His Majesty announces his official approval, there will no longer be anything private about you. The public will want to know everything, and they'll dig wherever they need in order to get that. I can sense Nora's nerves from a foot away, as if today isn't stressful enough for her. This is why I'd hoped to have a long engagement. Now we're essentially cramming for an exam, and Nora will be doing the bulk of the work. Don't worry about any of that, I tell her, her face already several shades paler than when she walked in here minutes ago. It's all going to be okay. I want to promise her she'll get used to it, but I'm not sure anyone ever does. Even someone who's been around this most of his life. Why don't we focus on today, I suggest to Bridge, as Richard approaches with our plates and sets them down in front of us before silently retreating. Certainly. Nathan smiles politely. The last thing I need is for my personal secretary to overwhelm Nora. I know what it's like to wake up in a strange bed and be told to dress in a suit for breakfast when I was used to wearing pajamas. Then to walk into a dining room where everyone addressed me so formally, sitting in the very chair Nora is now as my father's new private secretary, ran us through the agenda for his first public appearance as heir apparent, and me as second in line. I remember wanting nothing more than to run away, to disappear, to return to my old life. I reach under the table, gently squeezing her leg. She shifts her gaze toward me, and I give her a reassuring smile. As I mentioned, Bridge begins. We both turn our attention back to him. But I don't take my hand off Nora's leg, keeping it there while I eat my breakfast with the other, despite the break in etiquette of only using a fork instead of a fork and a knife. The schedule is light today. You'll arrive at the palace at 10, where you'll introduce Ms. Tremblay to His Majesty, the King, and Her Majesty, the Queen Mother. After that, you'll all go to the royal vault where Ms. Tremblay will select her engagement ring. I already have a ring, she protests. It's a tradition. I explain. Another one of many you'll learn over the course of the next several weeks. Probably years. Wearing a ring from the royal vault is a sign that the monarch approves of the marriage. I lean toward her, but don't exactly lower my voice, not caring who can hear. It's one of my least favorite traditions. I view it much like I suspect you do, like you're marrying the monarchy, not me, which is why I made sure to propose with a ring I purchased, one that has no ties or connection to the monarchy, because, at the end of the day, I want you to be my wife, regardless of whether I'm a prince or some schmuck you met in a roadside diner. Okay. A smile pulls on her lips, momentarily erasing her nerves. Okay. Right then, Nathan says, shooting to his feet in one swift motion. If you're finished, I suggest we head to the palace. It wouldn't be a good first impression for Ms. Tremblay if we were to arrive late on her first day. I check my watch. It's already a little after 9:30. Are you ready? I glance at her plate, noting she's only had a few bites of toast. You've barely eaten anything. I'll probably vomit it all up anyway, she says with a small laugh, dabbing at her mouth with her napkin and placing it beside her plate. I do the same, then push away from the table, helping Nora to her feet. Are you sure I can have them pack some fruit for you to eat on the drive? I'm sure. She places her hand on my chest. I just need to get through this press conference. Then I'll let you feed me a huge meal of your favorite local foods. Okay. I place a kiss on her forehead, then lead her from the dining room and toward a new life she never could have imagined in her wildest dreams. I hope it doesn't become a nightmare. Chapter 11. Nora J. Us keep your eyes forward and ignore the circus, Anderson says, squeezing my hand in the back seat of the SUV as Creed navigates toward the palace. People line the streets of Montrose, the picturesque capital city of Belmont, hoping to catch a glimpse of the formal announcement today. Or perhaps they're here to protest the idea of their beloved crown prince marrying an American, some still holding on to hope of a Gabriel-Caroline marriage. During my snooping this morning, I learned there are some fanatics out there who've even given them a couple named Gabrieline. I tried to not allow that inconsequential fact to eat away at me. She was someone Anderson sought comfort in when his life had been turned upside down. I did the same thing after I lost Hunter and Ember. I didn't realize how passionate some of these people were about their prince. In my eyes, he's an ordinary man who lives an extraordinary life. To everyone else, he's their beloved Prince Gabriel. They adore him, which will make my job that much harder. He leans toward me, his fingers lifting the material of my dress above my knee and grazing my skin. Just think about all the naughty things I'm going to do to you when we get back home, he whispers, his voice low, dangerous. It sends a shiver through me, my core clenching. I shift in my seat, squeezing my thighs together as I push down the desire filling me. I don't know how this man does it. One touch, and all my trepidation disappears. He makes me forget about the world, forget about everything except us, and the love that grows stronger every day. Naughty, I murmur, turning my lips toward his, but remaining out of reach. His leering stare skates over my body, his pupils dilating. Very. He brushes a gentle kiss to my cheek, at odds with the carnal heat in his gaze. He pulls back as the SUV slows outside a pair of wrought iron gates, an imposing brick building looming in the distance. From the research I've done, Lamberside Palace is over 500 years old and boasts several hundred rooms. It functions as the primary residence of the monarch, as well as the executive offices of the monarchy and royal household. Cobblestone lines the vast courtyard leading up to the sprawling estate, two smaller wings jutting out on either side of the main building, each impressive in its own right. I've seen large houses before. Hell, Evie's husband, Julian, is one of the wealthiest men in the United States. Or he would be if he didn't donate a huge portion of his annual income to charity. But his stately home in Rye, extravagant villa in the Hamptons, and lavish Columbus Circle penthouse pale in comparison. And this was where Anderson spent the majority of his formative years. And once his father voluntarily abdicates in a few years, this will be where I live. Holy fuck. If I was nervous before, My anxiety about today just increased tenfold. Hell, 1,000-fold. So, this is where you grew up, I say, as nonchalantly as possible. Anderson looks at me, then breaks into a throaty laugh. Not much to write home about, is it? Doesn't everyone grow up in a building that's featured on postcards? His laughter only increases as he slings an arm around my shoulders, pulling me closer and kissing my temple. If I don't make light of this situation, I'll lose my mind. If you look closely at one of those postcards, perhaps you might see me giving the photographer a show. Is that right? There may have been a few times I invited a few of my mates over, and we all decided to go streaking through the gardens and swam in the reflecting pool. Gardens reflecting pool. What? No orchestra shell. This really is subpar. Actually, love, there is an orchestra shell on the west side of the palace. Every Friday evening during the summer, the Belmont National Symphony performs. I'll take you one of these days, if you'd like. Sure. My voice is distant as I struggle to wrap my head around this being my life from now on. When Creed pulls the SUV underneath an awning, I glance out the window at a pair of ornate wooden doors, a red carpet lining the short flight of steps into the building. Butterflies flit in my stomach as a man approaches. He wears black pants and a black, high-necked jacket with various pins and medals on the left side over his chest. It's reminiscent of the United States Marine Corps dress uniform. Apart from being all black, two men dressed similarly, but with red jackets, approach both passenger doors, as if rehearsed. Our doors open at the same time, the man outside mine bowing. My lady. He offers his arm and helps me out of the SUV. It's still a shock to hear people address me so formally. Yesterday, I was Ms. Tremblay, or ma'am. I suppose that's what the king's approval does. I go from being no one to being someone. More specifically, the crown prince's fiancé. Anderson approaches and links his fingers with mine, leading me up the stairs and into the palace. Creed and Bridge follow behind as the man in the black uniform walks in front of us, his steps measured and in time, before we make it more than a few feet into the grand foyer dripping in gold and crystal. A familiar woman wearing a navy blue and white striped dress walks toward us, her steps graceful, as is everything about her. I breathe a sigh of relief. Sure, Anderson has a calming effect on me, but it's comforting to see someone else I knew before all of this. Nora, Esme says, her accent more prominent than her brother's, since she hasn't spent as much time living in the States. Esme, I respond, ignoring the glare the man escorting us gives me, probably for addressing her so informally. She takes me in her arms, kissing both cheeks before whispering into my ear. Breathe. It'll all be over soon. When she pulls back, her eyes lock with mine, making sure I heed her advice. Thank you. She drops her hold on me and faces Anderson. And fuck you very much, big brother. She snips without a care for the decorum of our surroundings. I have to find out you're engaged from the bloody Papos. Anderson chuckles, wrapping his sister in a brief hug, kissing her cheek. Sorry. Ezzy, I'd planned on telling you in person. He shrugs as he releases her. Things didn't exactly go as planned yesterday, I'd say. She crosses her arms over her chest, glancing between Anderson and me before looking over his shoulder. When her gaze lands on Creed, her expression falls slightly. Most people may not notice it, but I've gotten to know Esme fairly well. That, and Anderson mentioned his sister and Creed had a thing before he was inducted into the Royal Guard, forbidding him from having any sort of romantic relationship with a member of the royal family. Your Highness, Creed says, bowing. She pinches her lips together. Captain Lawson. The way she addresses him obviously stings. Regardless of the passing of 10 years since their relationship ended, it's clear neither has gotten over the other. Perhaps that's why Esme never married. I'm having a thing tonight. She tells Anderson once she tears her eyes from Creed's. Thing. Yeah. She gives him a knowing look, as if speaking a language only they can understand. Growing up in this world, I suppose you have to develop a way of communicating only those you trust can understand. And if there's one person Anderson trusts in this world besides Creed, it's Esme. Nora needs a bit of normalcy in her life, especially after today. So be there, 8 o'clock. 8. And for fuck's sake, don't wear a suit, or I'll hang you from your bloody tie. Got it? He laughs. Got it. Good. Excuse me. The older man in the dark uniform interrupts. His and Her Majesty are ready for you in the private drawing room. We shouldn't keep them waiting. Of course. Thank you. Major General Lawson, picking up on the fact that he has the same last name as Creed. I snap my eyes to Anderson. He gives a slight nod, answering my unspoken question. That the man who appears to be in charge of the security of this palace is Creed's father. Talk about some big shoes to fill. I glance at Creed, then Major General Lawson, noticing a resemblance. Both are impressive physically, not just their height, but also their muscular build. Both have dark, impassive eyes, both strong noses and square jaws. The only difference is their hair. Creed still boasts a full head of dark hair, trimmed but not in military precision, whereas his father is shaved bald. I won't keep you any longer, Esme says, forcing my attention back to her. I'll see you out there anyway. She wraps me in another hug, squeezing me tighter than normal. Congratulations, sweetie. And I promise, it'll be worth it. She holds my gaze before floating away. Once she disappears, we follow Major General Lawson up the grand staircase. I try not to gawk at my surroundings. It's a little surreal to be inside the palace I've only read about in history books. Will I also be in those books one day? The thought is crazy, especially after living most of my life feeling inadequate. After walking through a maze of corridors, we come to a stop outside a wall that, upon closer inspection, is actually a concealed door. Another man in a black suit hurries to meet us. Your Highness. He bows at Anderson before looking to Creed's father. Major General Lawson, Colonel Winters, my father's private secretary. Anderson explains under his breath. I nod in understanding as Colonel Winters gently presses the hidden door, which automatically opens inward. He strides inside, snapping his heels together. Your Majesties, he says with a bow. His Royal Highness Prince Gabriel and Ms. Nora Tremblay. Panic rises inside me as I glance at Anderson. It's always nerve-wracking to meet the parents of the man you've fallen in love with, but meeting his father and grandmother when they're royalty is a level of anxiety I never knew existed. What do I do? What do I say? What's the protocol? Who do I curtsy to first? Am I supposed to curtsy to Anderson? As if sensing my unease, he leans toward my ear. Just follow my lead. After greeting them, I'll introduce you. You need to do a small curtsy when they greet you. Okay, I don't even have a chance to respond before he leads me into the room, leaving Creed and his father in the hallway. I want to tell my feet to stop, to carry me back to a less stressful life, but they won't listen, automatically following Anderson. Your Majesty. He releases me and bows his head slightly. I watch as an older version of Anderson shakes his hand, the gesture feeling oddly formal and lacking any closeness or affection. As if Anderson's an employee, not a son, Gabriel. Then Anderson turns toward the woman at his father's side. She's tall and slender, much like Esme. Her silvery platinum hair is styled in a trendy pixie cut, reminiscent of Jamie Lee Curtis. In fact, everything about her reminds me of the actress, even down to the penetrating gaze that studies and analyzes every inch of me. She certainly doesn't exhibit any warmth or affection toward me, but as her eyes focus on Anderson, she smiles. Gabriel, darling, grandmother. He bows. She inclines her head before offering her cheek, which he kisses. When he returns to me, he straightens his posture, turning into a person I haven't seen much of since our relationship began. He turns into Prince Gabriel. I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Nora Tremblay. Nora? He smiles down at me. This is my father, King Gabriel. Nerves spiral through me, piercing and deep. All I can do is pray I get the greetings correct and don't look like an idiot when I curtsy. I haven't exactly needed to curtsy to anyone in the past. Oh, lifetime. Now I wish I'd spent last night learning all these archaic customs and rules instead of wrapped in Anderson's arms as we made love. 4 times, if he's to be believed, doing my best to maintain my balance. I move one foot behind the other, lowering my head slightly as I bend my knees. Your Majesty, my gesture seems to pass muster as he offers me his hand, which I take. Pleasure, Ms. Tremblay. I smile before Anderson turns toward his grandmother. Grandmother, I'd like you to meet Ms. Nora Tremblay. Nora, this is my grandmother, Queen Veronica, the Queen Mother. I go through the same motions, even more cognizant of my movements this time. I picture myself losing my balance and stumbling. It would be my luck to do something like that. When I first met Hunter's parents, I'd spilled my drink across the table at the restaurant, soaking his mother's dress. I'd never been so horrified. Thankfully, she laughed it off. I expected her to forbid her son from ever seeing me again because I didn't measure up. But she didn't. She embraced me, despite what I viewed as my failings. It made me realize my relationship with my own mother had been incredibly unhealthy. We'll have to work on that, won't we? Queen Veronica snips out, her nose upturned. I open my mouth, unsure how to respond. It's my fault, Anderson interjects. I sprang this on her. I have no doubt once Nora begins her instruction, she'll catch on rather quickly. I keep my expression neutral, like I used to whenever my mother criticized me in that passive-aggressive way she always did. Much like it seems Queen Veronica does. One hopes so. Thankfully, all she'll need to do today is stand there and smile. She turns her annoyed stare toward me. You can manage that, can't you? I'll try not to disappoint, I counter, doing everything to bite back any snarkiness begging to be set free. We should get on with it. King Gabriel smiles a congenial smile. I still don't know what to think about him. He's a bit of a conundrum. Over time, I'll probably have a better read on him, but right now, I sense he never learned how to balance being both a king and a father. It's like he wants to be a father to Anderson right now and celebrate in this moment. But he remembers who he is and the responsibilities placed on his shoulders. I hope Anderson doesn't turn out the same way. Your Majesties, if you're ready. Colonel Winters appears out of thin air. We are. Queen Veronica responds. Very well. He turns on his heels with precision, escorting us out of the drawing room. Creed and Major General Lawson join us for the journey through the corridors. When we approach a large metal door, Major General Lawson punches a code into it, and it swings inward. Once we're all inside, he closes the door, leading us through what feels like an underground network of tunnels. These are the palace safe rooms, Anderson explains. If it's ever under attack, the royal family and staff will be evacuated here. It's pretty much an underground fortress, and is also where the royal vault is located. Goosebumps prickle my nape. This all seems like a dream. Secret tunnels, safe rooms, royal vault. For the past year, I've kept waiting to wake up in a dingy motel room on Route 66 to learn I dreamed the entire thing, that I imagined Anderson. But as Major General Lawson unlocks another metal door and leads us into what can only be described as a jewelry vault on steroids, I know I'm not dreaming. No way in a million years would I be able to imagine this. Thick glass covers the floor-to-ceiling display cases containing priceless jewels, centuries-old rings, brilliant earrings, necklaces of all shapes and sizes, even dozens of intricate tiaras. You name it. And it's here, everything marked, as if a historical archive. That's the coronation crown, scepter, and mantle, Anderson's grandmother tells me. gesturing to a glass case in the far corner. I take several slow steps toward it, the sound of my heels on the floor echoing in the vast room. When my gaze falls on a mannequin adorned in a military dress uniform, my pulse increases, almost from the beginning. I've known Anderson was a prince. I've seen photos of him at official events, dressed in his military uniform, always the picture of poise and authority. But the reality that he'll one day be king never truly sank in until this moment. Being here, seeing the crown amongst a treasure trove of jewels, makes it all real. Anderson approaches behind me, his reflection in the glass nearly lining up with that of the crown and mantle. "You're going to be king," I murmur, the words escaping me before I can stop them. He smiles, placing his hands on my shoulders as I gawk at our reflection, me a nobody, him a remarkable man whose life somehow intersected with mine. First time I came down here, I thought the same thing. And right over here. He touches a hand to the small of my back, leading me toward the glittering tiaras placed on black velvet. Are the family's tiaras, one of which you'll wear on our wedding day. He stops me in front of one of them, a thick band of diamonds surrounding a large sapphire in the center, the blue color making my eyes pop even more. My jaw goes slack at the reflection of me in a tiara. And not a cheap costume tiara like I donned when I played dress-up as a little girl. A real tiara worth thousands of dollars. We're running short on time, so if I might suggest we take a look at the rings, Colonel Winters says in an even tone. "Certainly." "Frederick!" King Gabriel nods in his direction as a man in a suit appears from the shadows. I'm starting to think that being able to blend into the background and appear only when needed is a prerequisite to work here. The man approaches one of the cases and removes a velvet-lined display, 6 rings placed in the grooves. He brings it to a nearby table, and Anderson leads me toward it. I did my best to choose a selection of rings my lady might prefer, based on your skin tone and the size ring you wear. The man says. "Which one do you like?" Anderson asks. I shake my head, the glittering stones almost blinding me. They're much bigger and extravagant than I pictured myself wearing. I want to tell him the ring he already bought me is perfect, that I can't imagine myself wearing something so grandiose. I don't have a choice, though. I need to learn to play by their rules, and that includes wearing a ring from the royal vault as a sign of the king's approval of our union. Swallowing down my protest, I study the different rings, trying to select one I wouldn't mind wearing the rest of my life. At least at public events. They're all beautiful, some all diamonds, others different jewels, sapphire, ruby, emerald. But there's one that calls to me, a blue stone that reminds me of Anderson's eyes light around the edges, transitioning to a stormy blue in the center. This one, I think. I point to the stone that's flanked by dozens of smaller diamonds. Lovely choice. "Ma'am," the man removes it from the display. That's an 8-carat tanzanite stone surrounded by an additional 2 carats worth of diamonds. Do you know much about tanzanite? I don't. It's one of the rarest stones in existence. In fact, it's 1,000 times rarer than diamonds. The stone was named by Tiffany's after its place of origin in northern Tanzania. It's estimated there's only a 30-year supply left. In my opinion, it's the perfect choice to commemorate a once-in-a-lifetime love. He beams and hands Anderson the ring. Anderson takes my left hand in his eyes trained on mine as he removes his original engagement ring. When he brings the tanzanite ring up to the same finger, he arches a single brow. He doesn't make any move to put the ring on my finger yet, giving me one last chance to change my mind. I don't need him to say it. Once we do this, once I walk out of those doors to meet the press for the first time and his father announces his formal approval of our engagement, there's no backing out. But I couldn't walk away from Anderson even if I wanted to. My stare unwavering. I nod. He slides the ring onto my finger, then raises it to his lips, kissing my knuckles. Neither one of us says a word, but I can't help but feel like there's been a shift inside of me. I pray it's for the better, not the worse. Chapter 12. Anderson, is it possible to pull a muscle in your face? Nora remarks later in the evening as Creed drives from my estate on the outskirts of the city and toward the vibrant city center. Because I'm pretty sure I have. How so, I ask, stealing a glance at her. There's something different about her now that our engagement has been made official, and my father has announced to the world that, in 8 weeks, she'll be the crown princess of Belmont, and eventually queen consort. But all of that comes second to the most important aspect of my father's announcement. In 8 weeks, I'll be her husband, our hearts and souls bound together even more so than they are now. Most men might be nervous. Not me, if possible. I would have married her today. I truly am the luckiest bastard in the world. From smiling all day for the cameras. If this is to become a regular thing, I may have to work face exercises into my workout routine. Chuckling, I grab her right hand, lifting it to my lips, brushing them against her finger where the engagement ring I got her sits, the family ring on the left. It meant a lot she insisted on still wearing my ring. I can think of a few ways to stretch those face muscles. I mischievously waggle my brows. I bet you can. We'll start when we get home, if you'd like. Is that right? She pulls her hand from mine and shoots me a playful glare. You're the one who said your face muscles could use a workout. I'm simply offering my services. Consider me your personal trainer. Her lips pinch together into a tight line. I wouldn't want to burden you. Shouldn't you check with your private secretary first to make sure you have room in your schedule for what I can only assume could be a rather time-consuming task? I dip my head toward her, my mouth a breath away from her neck. I'll make the time to feel your lips on my cock. I linger there for a beat. I don't even need to look at her to know her expression is flushed. Her breath's coming quicker. Then I pull away, confirming my original suspicions. I think 2 hours a day is a good start. I lean back in the seat, extending my legs as far in front of me as possible and place my hands behind my head. The picture of relaxation. Feel free to start now. Such an opportunist. Like I said, I'm simply offering to help. She curves toward me, trailing her fingers down the t-shirt I changed into, per Esme's instructions to not wear a suit. As her hand approaches my belt, she stops. Baby, you wouldn't be able to last 2 minutes. I raise a brow. Don't think so. I know so. If memory serves correctly, last time I sucked your dick, you went quick. I graze my lips against hers, a lightness in my chest at our easy banter and conversation. It reminds me of the people we were back in New York. Gives me hope we'll still be those people, despite the uncertain road we're about to embark on. What can I say? You give damn good head. Gorgeous. She seals her mouth over mine, her tongue teasing, giving me a taste of exactly what she can do with that tongue on other parts of my body. Likewise, pulling back, she smirks. Gorgeous, she adds, mimicking my accent to the best of her ability. When the SUV comes to a stop in front of a brick row house across from one of the many canals snaking through the capital city, Nora peers out the window. No gated drive or elaborate palace for Esme, she asks, as Creed slides out of the SUV. Her formal residence has all of that. Formal residence. Then where are we? Somewhere she goes to escape it all. Nora's door opens, and Creed helps her find her footing. When I step out, I glance up and down the quiet street to make sure no one is around to catch a glimpse of us. As expected, I notice a few dark SUVs at either entrance of the block, preventing vehicular and pedestrian traffic from coming this way for the few seconds it takes us to go from the SUV and up the front steps of Esme's townhouse. I'll keep an eye on things. Creed tells me, call when you're ready to leave. Thank you. Enjoy your evening. Your Highness. He bows, then looks to Nora. My lady. Creed. He remains in place, as he's been trained. It's not until I punch a code into the keypad by the front door and it opens that he retreats. That's going to take some getting used to. Nora mumbles under her breath as we step inside the house, closing the door behind us. What is everyone calling me, my lady? She plays up the British in her intonation. You won't have to get used to it for long. A familiar voice says. We look toward the doorway off the foyer, where my sister stands wearing a pair of ripped, skinny jeans and a billowy blouse. It's a complete 180 from the put-together princess she was earlier today. In a few weeks, they'll be calling you Your Highness. Then in a few years, it'll be Your Majesty. She approaches, pulling Nora in for a tight hug. How are you handling everything? Her concern is clear. Good, good. Esme smiles, then looks at me, jabbing my chest. It's your job to make sure she stays good. Got it. Got it. I reply with a roll of my eyes, feigning annoyance. Because you'll have me to answer to if you don't. And you don't want that. She winks and offers me her cheek for a kiss. Come on. We need to introduce Nora to the people who will remind her she's normal. I grab Nora's hand and follow my sister into the open living area. 5 familiar people sit on the various couches and chairs, sipping cocktails and enjoying a lively conversation. When we enter, they all stop, glancing in our direction. It's about time you got here, you wanker, a man says, standing and heading toward us. Good to see you too, Marius. I chuckle as he pulls me in for a quick hug. He's a tad shorter than me, but still has an impressive physique. After all, he does have Norwegian roots. Most Nords I've met are exactly like Marius, tall, blonde, and can drink you under the table. It's not like you announced your engagement today or anything. He winks, then turns to Nora. This must be your blushing bride-to-be. Marius Erling, this is Nora Tremblay. Nora, this is a dear friend of mine, Marius. And also Esme's. I trail off. Not sure what to call him. I'm not sure boyfriend is appropriate here. They have an understanding. And when they're not understanding each other, as Esme puts it, they're simply friends. According to the rest of the country, however, they're dating. Trying to explain this to an outsider really emphasizes how fucked up my world can be. That pretty much covers it. I'm Esme's. Congratulations on your engagement. Marius kisses Nora's cheek in greeting. If Nora's surprised by this development, considering she's more than aware of Creed and Esme's history, she doesn't show it. Thank you, she replies. Although I should probably be thanking the two of you. Why's that, she asks. Now we're off the hook. He gestures between himself and Esme as she approaches with a few rocks glasses filled with sparkling water, handing them to Nora and me. Before your unexpected announcement, your father's dolt of a head of household and chief counsel, Dalton Peel, tried to convince us to announce an engagement in the hopes of swaying the vote on the referendum. After all, everyone loves a royal wedding. Now they'll get a real one, not a sham of one, and people are already eating it up. How do you mean, Nora inquires. The headlines? Darling. Granted, not everyone likes you. You're bound to have a few haters. A lot of 20-somethings are convinced you've stolen their prince from them, even though they never had a chance to begin with. He looks over his shoulder, addressing one of Esme's friends lounging on the couch. Hey, Hari, what did that article you were reading to us say again? She smiles as she grabs her mobile and clears her throat before reading. If you ask me, Nora Tremblay from America is exactly what this country needs. She's a breath of fresh air, beautiful and poised. She's the reincarnation of Grace Kelly. Nora gives off the impression of being likable and, dare I say it, one of us. I, for one, am excited about the prospect of an American princess gracing our country with her fresh perspective, in my opinion. Any romantic notions that may have existed between Prince Gabriel and Lady Caroline de Vries can't hold a candle to the love I saw radiating between him and Ms. Tremblay this morning. I have no doubt this passion-filled marriage will breathe new life into a monarchy in desperate need of a facelift. She lowers her phone, her dark eyes meeting ours, and that's just one of many. You chose good. Anders. I glance down at Nora. It wasn't even a choice. I curve into her, giving her a soft kiss on her lips. Well, fuck me sideways. You two really are in love. I reluctantly pull away, looking at a blonde man, his long legs propped up on the coffee table. Of course they're really in love, you tosser. The redhead beside him playfully swats his head. That's Jasper and Maggie. I tell Nora. Jasper was one of my mates from before you became a complete pillock. Tosser and pillock, Nora interjects, crossing her arms over her chest. I might need a dictionary for some of these words, or at least a translator. I know wanker, but what's a tosser and pillock idiot? Everyone says at the same time, same as wanker, I add. You have 3 slang terms for idiot. Actually, we have a few more, another man states. I give him a smile and nod. Cody. Anders. Wait until you find out how many slang terms we have for penis. The woman at his side says. I'm Penelope, but you can call me Nellie. That's because she made the mistake of marrying me. Used to go by Penny, but once she married some bloke with the last name Lane, well, as if on cue, everyone breaks out singing the classic Beatles song, myself included. Nora looks around, appearing as if she just stepped into some third dimension. I can understand why it would surprise her, especially after all the pomp and circumstance of today, which is precisely why I needed to bring her here. Surround her with people who won't address her or me using some title. Who knew Esme and me before our lives were forever altered? Through all the changes, they grounded us. Hopefully, being here will help keep Nora grounded as well. So are you going to leave me hanging here or what? Nora asks once our spontaneous rendition comes to an end. About what I press. These slang terms for penis. Right, I answer, glancing around the room. Well, there's gentleman sausage, twigs and berries, Marius adds. Harriet raises her glass. Meat and 2 veg. Knob. Esme says. Dauber. Cody offers. Bell end. Nellie states. A brief silence settles as we all share a look. And like the old friends we are, we know precisely what we're all thinking. And John Thomas. Everyone says in chorus. John. Thomas. Nora arches a brow. Isn't that the name of the character from Lady Chatterley's Lover I Beam? One and the same. And why, pray tell, would you nickname your man Meat after a fictional character? You've read the book, correct? You know I have. She gives me a look, reminding me of role-playing in her favorite Manhattan bookstore. It feels like a lifetime ago now, instead of mere days. Then you're familiar with his unique ability of coming up with many colorful sayings for penis. So, John Thomas. She stares at me for a moment, processing this rather unusual phrase for the male genitalia. Then she bursts out laughing. I will never again look at a penis without thinking of John Thomas. I hope you'd think of me first. I drape my arm around her shoulders, steering her toward my usual spot on the love seat. We'll see, she winks. Chapter 13, Anderson. I can't remember the last time I've laughed so hard, or heard Nora laugh so much. If I had any worries about her meeting my friends, they vanished instantly. Unlike the less than positive reception she received at the palace, my friends happily accepted Nora with open arms, despite the fact that everyone here holds some sort of title, from Harriet, a duchess, to Marius, a lowly baron. At least that's how he puts it. But in this group, titles are irrelevant. It was a pact we all made years ago, one we maintain to this very day, one I think Nora's happy to be a part of, as well. What did everyone think? Esme asks, settling into the chair beside Marius as we all sit around the dining room table, bellies stuffed and spirits lifted. Horrendous, Cody jokes. Absolute rubbish. Darling, you shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen ever again. I mean, look around you. He gestures around the table, not a morsel left on a plate. Obviously not a single person enjoyed it. Right, she draws out. That's the reason you licked your plate clean. Literally, I actually witnessed you licking your plate. She playfully tisks. What would your dear old grandfather have to say? That's certainly not behavior becoming of an earl. Either is running a bookie business. Yet here we are. He winks. What did you think? Anders Esme turns her attention to me, hopeful, as if my opinion is the only one that truly matters. After all, I was the first person she used as a test audience when she started experimenting with food. Our grandmother would have a meltdown if she knew Esme once spent her days in the palace's kitchen, while one of the head chefs taught her how to make the various dishes they served. Esme always dreamed of opening her own restaurant, spend her life showering people with love through food. But because of who we are, that's not possible. Instead, she's resigned to hosting dinner parties for her friends, testing her latest recipes on us. Most people would probably be surprised about Esme's love for cooking. It's certainly not a hobby one typically associates with royalty, but we aren't your typical royals, probably because this was never supposed to be our lives. Exceptional. Esme, truly some of your best work? She beams, a wide smile pulling on her mouth. Why don't you grin like that when I tell you I enjoyed your cooking? Marius asks, slinging an arm around her shoulders. She pinches her lips into a tight line. Because you have to tell me it's good. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Mate, Cody states. How do you figure? If you want her cookie, you compliment her cooking, he retorts. The room fills with laughter once more, but it's cut short by the sound of the front door opening and closing, followed by heavy footsteps. Expecting anyone else, Marius asks Esme, perhaps someone else who wants your cookie? He waggles his brows. We're all present and accounted for. Darling, she replies in a sing-song voice, the large quantities of liquor she's consumed throughout the evening evident in her slur. As is my cookie. Can we all please stop talking about my sister's cookie? For the love of Christ, I shoot back playfully, which elicits more laughter. Unfortunately, it dies the instant Creed's imposing frame steps into the room. Your Highness? He bows toward me. Uh-oh. Esme giggles. The party police have arrived. Creed clenches his jaw, stealing a glance in her direction. His normally stoic and businesslike expression flickers when he sees Marius's arm draped around her. Lawson. Marius nods in greeting. He's fully aware of Esme's history with Creed. Besides me, he's one of the few people who is. If it bothers him, he's never let it show. According to her, she's never agreed to be exclusive with Marius. Then again, she never agreed to be exclusive with any of the other men she dated after Creed. Yet every single one of them eventually proposed, and she turned down every last one. Your Highness. Creed bows toward her before glancing around the table. Your Graces. He greets the rest of the party. Then he looks my way. I apologize for the interruption, but there appears to be a situation. I tighten my arm around Nora's shoulders as she sits in the chair beside me. I had a feeling something was amiss. Creed wouldn't crash one of Esme's parties without a damn good reason. I'm still looking into how it happened, but I believe the brief roadblocks we set up earlier may have caused people to grow suspicious. You think? Sherlock Esme snorts, then hiccups. I shoot daggers at her, silently berating her to play nice. I know my sister. She's an emotional drunk. Tomorrow, she'll regret the way she behaved and will call Creed to apologize. Who will tell her it doesn't matter? Tone emotionless. Then she'll get upset all over again. And the cycle will continue, much like it has over the past 10 years, regardless of what caused it. He bites out through a clenched jaw, his words directed at Esme before his gaze refocuses on me. There's a crowd, paparazzi, fans, that kind of thing. We've got it managed for now, but the sooner we get you out of here, the sooner the crowd will disperse. I blow out a breath, my shoulders slumping, I hate to pull Nora away from this slice of normalcy, especially since I know precisely how difficult tomorrow will be. But the longer we stay, the larger the crowd will grow. I'm sorry. Love, I say to Nora with a small smile. So much for giving you a bit of fun tonight. I learned a long time ago to always expect the unexpected with you. Plus, I need to get used to this life. Nothing like jumping right into the fray. Correct. You'll do fine, Harriet encourages. Don't pay attention to the rubbish anyone says. They're just jealous hags. Thank you. Nora smiles as she pushes back from the table. I shoot to standing in order to help her, but after sitting most of the night, my muscles are tight, causing me to waver. Quickly, I place a hand on the table to steady myself. Esme gives me a concerned look, as does Creed, but I subtly shake my head, wordlessly telling them I'm fine and not to press the issue. That's the thing no one warns you about when you have MS. Everyday occurrences you never thought twice about now make you question its cause, like muscle weakness, dizziness, loss of balance and coordination. All things I've experienced more and more of lately. Once I'm more confident in my balance, I lead Nora around the room to say our goodbyes. You good? Esme asks when I reach her. I'm good. Okay. She gives me a quick once-over, then wraps Nora in her embrace. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And like I always tell Anderson, don't let the man get you down. She winks. Thanks. Esme, tonight was exactly what I needed. Then we'll all have to do it again sometime soon. I'd like that. Once we finish saying our goodbyes, we follow Creed into the foyer where another guard waits. He has a similar build to Creed, although slightly shorter, his skin paler, his bright red hair shaved into a crew cut. Your Highness. He bows his head. Killian. I respond. Lieutenant O'Kelly has been assigned to guard Ms. Tremblay. Creed explains. A guard, Nora presses, glancing between Creed and me. Is that necessary? It is. I turn toward her, taking her hands in mine. It goes without saying. There's quite a bit about this lifestyle I disagree with, but when it comes to your safety and protection, no amount of guards is too many. So far, you've only had a taste of what's to come. The airport was controlled, as was the press conference earlier. There are entire websites devoted to reporting on the royal family's movements in the hopes of snapping candid photos. Among other things. Other things, she asks. There have been kidnapping attempts on Her Highness, Creed says stoically, nodding toward the dining room where the lively conversation continues. Every single member of the royal family is a high-priced target, and I have no doubt there may be threats to you now, as well. That you also have a price tag on your head. It's why you'll always have a guard at your side whenever in public, regardless of any lack of perceived threat. Why you'll soon go through a training class to learn how to conduct yourself if you're ever kidnapped and held hostage. Held hostage, Nora squeaks out. It's standard procedure, I assure her, squeezing her hand. We've all been through it and have never needed to use what we learned, because the Royal Guard is the best at what they do. I steal a glance out the front windows, crowds of people swarming the sidewalks and streets. The only barricade between them and us right now is the Royal Guard blocking the stairwell. Local police attempt to move people along. This is private property and they're currently trespassing. The threat of arrest never seems to dissuade them, though, in fact, some view getting arrested as a badge of honor. The best course of action is to give them what they came here for, a candid shot as we leave and get into the car. Then they'll continue on with their existence until the next time. And the next. And the next. Ready, Creed asks, looking between us. Nora draws in a deep breath, squaring her shoulders, her head held high. If this scenario has her on edge, she doesn't let it show. Still the picture of confidence. Like she was born to be a star. Ready, she states. I nod at Creed. He presses a finger to his earpiece. We're coming out. The instant he opens the door, flashes blind us as we make our way out of the building and toward the SUV parked a few feet away. But those few feet may as well be miles for all the slurs I hear being flung at Nora. "You're no Grace Kelly." He'll come to his senses. "No one wants you here. So just go home, you American skank." It takes every ounce of willpower I have to not whirl around and give a piece of my mind to the assembly of mean girls I recognize from several of my public events. All college-aged girls who follow my every movement to the point of obsession. When we finally reach the car, I glance at Nora. Her expression cracks slightly as more derogatory statements are thrown at her without a single care for the fact that she's a living, breathing human with feelings. Then again, the second I introduced her to this world, she ceased to be human in their eyes. She's their future princess, a thing put on display for them to criticize as they see fit. I quickly help her into the SUV before jumping in behind her. The instant the door slams closed, the guard behind the wheel, Lieutenant Montgomery, drives the car down the street at a slow pace, the police helping to disperse the crowd. It's not until we're a mile away that either of us seems to relax. Nora letting out a long breath. "You okay?" I give her hand a squeeze. She nods. "If you can paint, I can walk," she answers in a shaky voice, quoting the last line from a movie that has a special place in our hearts, An Affair to Remember. During our journey along Route 66, we'd often fall asleep watching that movie together. At first, we were drawn to the similarities between the storyline and our lives, two people meeting on a journey who fell in love with each other. But after our journey ended, it held a deeper meaning, that despite the obstacles we face, we'll get through them together. Like Terry McKay tells Nikki Ferrante when he realizes why she didn't show up to meet him at the top of the Empire State Building. "If you can paint, I can walk." It's become an unspoken promise between Nora and me. Our vow that no matter what, we won't give up on each other, on our love. "If you can paint, I can walk," I repeat, brushing my lips against her knuckles. A thick silence descends on the car as the city disappears behind us, our surroundings becoming more residential. When we're about to turn onto the driveway leading up to my residence, Nora finally speaks again. "It won't always be like this. Will it?" I open my mouth, unsure how to respond. I could lie to her, tell her this kind of thing doesn't happen often, but it does. I have a feeling it will only get worse in the coming weeks. Nora's fresh meat, and the masses are like a pack of wolves that hasn't had a meal in ages. Instead of feeding her any lies, I bring her hand to my lips and kiss the ring I gave her. "I'm sorry. It's the best I can offer right now." Chapter 14. Nora. "Did you hear what I just said?" A woman's condescending voice cuts through as I struggle to keep pace with everything my PR team has thrown at me in the past several hours, giving what can only be described as a crash course in learning how to act like a royal. If I thought I'd ease into my new role as the Crown Prince's fiancée, I was mistaken. Instead of sleeping in this morning, I was woken up before the sun and informed I needed to be at the palace at 9. I barely got to see Anderson for more than a few minutes during breakfast, which Lieutenant Colonel Bridge dominated, running through his packed schedule for the day. Then Lieutenant O'Kelly whisked me away for my day full of meetings with the palace's PR team. "Something about my image," I say, my response sounding more like a question. After sitting in this room for the past 6 hours, my mind is complete mush. Color-coded schedules, social media, etiquette classes, self-defense instruction with a special ops team. Not something about your image. I look at Pippa, the head of my dedicated PR team, which consists of 5 people with strong opinions about everything. Inadequacy fills me as I compare myself to this group of people who look more like they just stepped off the runway at Paris Fashion Week. They're all beautiful, stunning, the picture of confidence, tall frames and slim bodies, not a single hair out of place. Even with my own personal stylist doing my hair and makeup in the morning, I feel awkward and frumpy next to them. "Everything about your image?" She gives me a tight-lipped smile. masking her obvious annoyance, which is why we need to ensure it's squeaky clean. From now on, your social media accounts are no longer controlled by you. In fact, we've taken the liberty of deactivating all your personal ones. The only social media you'll have now will be of your royal life. Tomorrow, after your morning instruction, you'll go out with our team of photographers to spruce up your social media presence. They'll stage photos of you exploring the city. Going forward, you won't go anywhere without my social media guru, Daphne. She nods at the heavily made-up woman to her right. She'll capture everything you do, from etiquette classes to wedding planning, and everything in between. It's my job to make the public think you're princess material. She gives me a contemptuous smile. That you're worthy of marrying Prince Gabriel. And this is how we do it. By making you appear likable on social media. Unable to stop myself, I bark out a laugh. My entire PR team stares at me in obvious disapproval that I'd even dare to question their plan. Not to sound rude, but wouldn't it be more beneficial if people saw me connecting with the community? Volunteering. Perhaps I don't see how staging photos of me doing things no one can relate to will make me likable. Isn't it more important for them to find me? I don't know. Relatable Pippa keeps her back straight. Making them view you as relatable is the absolute worst thing you can possibly do as a potential new member of the royal family. I scrunch my brows. Why I? Because it's our job to make people think the crown is divine, a firm voice interjects, carrying through the room. Everyone snaps their eyes toward the source, jumping to their feet, bowing and curtsying with a chorus of Your Majesty. I don't even have to look to see who it is. Of course, Anderson's grandmother would walk in at the precise moment I'm no longer being the obedient puppet they wish I were. On a deep inhale, I pull myself to my feet and turn, greeting her with as sweet of a smile as I can muster. Your Majesty, I curtsy. Do you know why the crown is divine? She continues. No, ma'am. Because it's a position ordained by God Himself. This may be a difficult thing for you to understand, considering your country was founded on the notion of separation of church and state, although one questions the effectiveness of that little experiment. However, in a monarchy, the king is not only the head of the country, he is also the head of the national church. He draws his power from God Himself, not the people. I part my lips, fighting to bite my tongue. She's right. This is a difficult idea for me to wrap my head around. I've lived my entire life in a country where the people elected who they wanted to lead them, although you could argue that's less and less true these days, considering the amount of corporate money that finds its way into elections, particularly on the national level. But to say the role of the monarch and royal family in general is divine, I don't fully understand. Right then, I believe it's time for a chat. She looks at the man appointed to be my private secretary. Like every other private secretary I've met, he's obviously former military, clean-cut and authoritative, yet still obedient to the crown. Lieutenant Thomas, would you be kind enough to send word to have tea prepared for us in the Rose Garden, Ms. Tremblay hasn't been instructed on proper tea etiquette. Lieutenant Thomas interjects, his posture stiff. Perhaps it's best if... Then I shall take this opportunity to do just that. Tea. Rose Garden. He bows his head. Yes. Your Majesty. She fixes her steely gaze back on me. Come with me. She doesn't wait as she spins on her heel and strides away. Acting the part of the trained dog I am, I rush to catch up, my steps quick. Once you begin your etiquette classes, you'll learn that when Prince Gabriel becomes king, you'll need to remain 2 steps behind him at all times. Does the reason for this go back to the whole divine and ordained by God thing? Yes. And because no one should ever be seen to be on equal footing as the king. She pins me with a glare. Even his wife. The sooner you dispense with any feminist notions of maintaining equality in your relationship, the better. I falter for a minute. Her statement hitting me hard. Harder than I thought it would. I knew once Anderson took on the role as king, I'd have to show a certain level of deference to him, But to never be able to walk beside him in public, never be able to hold hands as we stroll the streets. It's borderline sadistic to take that away from a couple. What other rules will I have to follow? What other rules will dictate our relationship? I try to not allow my mind to wander. Instead, I remain the silent, obedient future crown princess. Queen Veronica wants me to be as we walk through the hallways. Palace attendants are stationed every few yards, their black and red uniforms blending into the wall. It reminds me of that scene in Annie when Daddy Warbucks takes little orphan Annie to the movies for the first time. How theater attendants line the pathway from the doors all the way down the aisle as a show of opulence and overindulgence. This feels the same. As we approach a pair of double doors, an attendant magically appears. After bowing toward Queen Veronica, he opens a door, and we step onto the palace grounds. If it were any other time, I'd take a moment to appreciate my surroundings. Grass so green, I question whether it's real. Fragrant flowers of a dozen different varieties. There are even a few butterflies flitting about from flower to flower, as if the famous Lamberside Palace Gardens aren't picturesque enough already. A man in black tails and white gloves escorts us past a large marble fountain and toward a more secluded area. Overhanging trees creating the feeling of a private alcove. A single table with 2 chairs sits in the center, and the man ushers us in its direction. Your Majesty, he pulls out a chair for her. No, Michael. Ms. Tremblay first. I'd like to see how she sits. I stare at her smug expression, as if she's expecting me to collapse into a heap on the chair, completely uncivilized. I didn't realize there was a proper way to sit. Apparently, there is, trying not to let my nerves show. I walk to the opposite chair and lower myself, sitting with my legs at a 90-degree angle, slant them. Excuse me, if you keep your legs positioned as such, it's possible for someone to glimpse what's underneath your skirt. Always sit with your legs slanted down, preferably crossed at the ankles. I fight the urge to tell her this wouldn't be a problem if I were allowed to wear pants. I do as she asks and slant my legs slightly to my right, crossing them at the ankles. It's not exactly the most comfortable position, but I act as if it's normal. Lovely. Now you look a little more polished, although we still have our work cut out for us. She lowers herself into the chair across from mine. Her movements graceful and refined, head raised and back straight. Once she's situated, she nods at the man, who pours tea into her cup before mine. I don't make any move to bring my tea to my mouth just yet, waiting for her. When she does, I watch her movements, attempting to mimic them. Keep your pinky in, she chastises. Pinch your index and thumb through the handle, using your middle finger to support it. At no time should you ever extend your pinky. I correct myself. The position awkward at first, but I eventually get used to it. I lean over the table slightly, meeting the cup halfway to take another sip. You don't go to the tea. The tea comes to you. Don't lean in. Don't hunch your shoulders. Keep your back straight. If I were to put a book on your head, it should remain there the entire time. Yes, ma'am, I respond, squaring my shoulders and doing my best to follow her directions. Perhaps if she'd instructed me to just pretend I had a giant stick shoved up my ass, I would have known how to sit, because that's how this feels. Better. She nods her approval. Now, return your cup to the saucer. I do as she instructs, confident I can't mess this up. Wrong again. 3 o'clock if you're right-handed, 9 o'clock if you're left-handed. Excuse me, it's pardon. By some miracle, you may be royalty soon. You never excuse yourself. You pardon yourself. She waves her hand at my cup, and I was referring to the handle on your teacup. Since you're right-handed, it should always point to 3 o'clock when on your saucer. I glance down to see my handle is pointing more to 5 o'clock and correct it. Good. I sit straight, afraid to even breathe for fear she'll say I'm doing that wrong. As well, it seems there are rules for everything. Do they have rules regarding sex? Too, is someone going to be in Anderson's and my room on our wedding night to critique us? Good form, sir. Perhaps a nipple pinch would help. Maybe suck on it, too. I do my best to push down a laugh at the image of some uptight member of the royal household giving pointers to Anderson in the bedroom. But it's impossible. A snicker escapes. She sets her teacup on its saucer and levels a disapproving stare at me. Is something amusing, Ms. Tremblay? I adjust my posture, holding my head high. Sorry, ma'am. I just remembered something. Anderson, Prince Gabriel, she admonishes. You will refer to him as Prince Gabriel. Nothing so familiar as a middle name. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. This world isn't like anything you're accustomed to. We have strict protocol and traditions for everything. You're already questioning our reason for doing things. However, I can assure you that everything we do, these rules we have in place, are there for a reason. And what reason is that, I ask? Despite the voice in my head telling me to just accept what she tells me and not act like an impudent toddler, to maintain the illusion. The illusion. Precisely. I'm going to give you a piece of advice Queen Angelique gave me when I sat where you are right now, and that's to never let the cracks show. People in this country and around the world harbor a sort of fascination with the crown. It carries a certain mystique, casts a spell over all those who aren't allowed to see behind the curtain. It's our job to make sure they never do. To make sure they don't see that being close to the crown can at times be more of a burden than a blessing. You've heard that saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown? I swallow hard. I have... Do you know what it means? I shake my head. I have a feeling, but doubt I'd phrase it correctly anyway. It's from Shakespeare's Henry IV. Although it was actually uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. It more or less means that those who are charged with incredible responsibility also carry a heavy weight most people can't even fathom being able to shoulder. That we are burdened. There's no way around it. I nod in agreement. I've already had to sacrifice my own needs for the monarchy in regards to my wedding. What else will I have to sacrifice in the future? What else will I be burdened with in the future? As royals, we undertake a responsibility to our country, our people, and God. She continues. We commit our lives to service, to charity, to the betterment of our people. But in order to do that, we must also further the illusion of a charmed life, of an unburdened life. The king doesn't just rule over the country, he also must reign. That means entertaining the masses with the fairy tale that's always been associated with royal life. And if we don't, I ask, if we allow them to see behind the mask, we risk becoming a mere footnote in the history books. She peers into the distance for a beat, revealing a crack in her own armor. Despite her warnings, I not do the same. In that split second, she appears vulnerable, looking like her almost 90 years. But it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, her expression hardening on me once more. Which is why I need to be quite frank with you. The job looming in Prince Gabriel's future won't be an easy one. Not only will he need to manage the running of this country, he'll have to do so in a way that will keep the spectacle alive and well. It's not an easy task, and is one best carried out with as little distractions as possible. Distractions I'm not sure I understand. Love is a distraction. I blink, my blood pressure beginning to rise, heat prickling my skin. How can love be a distraction? Feelings make you weak, make you vulnerable, force you to lose your focus on what's important. She brings her teacup toward her mouth and takes a sip. I simply stare at her. I couldn't even drink my tea if I wanted, nausea rolling through me. I assume the Crown Prince has mentioned the referendum that's going to a vote in a few months. He has. That's a prime example of why he cannot afford any distractions. This isn't the first time such a referendum has garnered enough support to be taken to the people for a vote, and it won't be the last. I'm sure you're a lovely girl. The distaste in her expression is evidence she thinks otherwise. But Gabriel will face enough hurdles with his condition. He doesn't need anything else to distract him, and that's all you'll be. That's all you've been to him this past year. A distraction. You've taken him away from his duties, made him shun his responsibilities not only to the crown, but to his country. I have every reason to believe he'll do the same in the future, as well, as long as you're still in the picture. It's generally frowned upon for the heir apparent to marry for love, and for good reason. It causes needless problems, ones this country cannot afford, particularly right now. How do I even respond? And what's her reason for telling me all of this? In the hopes I'll walk away. I'm not sure what's more shocking, the words she says or the tone in which she utters them. As if reporting on the latest polo match, not telling her grandson's fiancé to more or less take a hike. Rest assured, you will still be provided for. Upon a positive paternity test. Of course. Paternity test, I repeat. Unsure I heard her correctly. The royal family takes its obligations seriously. As long as the child is, in fact, Gabriel's, we will ensure you're both taken care of for the rest of your lives. She narrows her gaze. Unless you'd prefer to explore other options. My jaw drops, her suggestion churning my stomach. I shouldn't be surprised. After all, Anderson told me his father's head of household did the same thing. It still stings to think this woman would propose it, and to her own flesh and blood. Then again, these people don't have children because they want to share their love with another human. They do so out of duty, to continue the monarchy. Nothing more. There is no other option, I say coldly. Very well. We just need to confirm paternity before we discuss any sort of financial arrangement. That's not what I meant. My voice comes out hard and biting, not a hint of hesitation. Placing my hands on the table, I slowly rise to my feet. I'm about to break every etiquette rule in the book, but that's the last thing on my mind right now. My chest tightens as disgust bubbles in my stomach, spreading through my veins. Under no circumstances will I agree to your little proposition. You don't want to hear this, but I love Anderson, and he loves me. Our love isn't a burden, it's a goddamn blessing. Her eyes widen, confirming my suspicion that she's not used to people standing up to her. You know what's funny? I straighten, crossing my arms over my chest. Judging by the look of horror on her face, it's not proper etiquette to stand in such a way in the presence of royalty. Like all little girls, I once dreamed I'd meet a prince and be a princess. Whenever I caught glimpses of them on TV, I actually envied the royal family. I actually envied you. I remember seeing clips of you with your children. Thought you were the type of mother I wish I had. Lord knows, mine left a lot to be desired. But now, I shake my head and look away, collecting my thoughts. Then I turn my icy gaze on hers. I don't envy you. I pity you. I may not have been surrounded by much love growing up, but I didn't give up on finding love. Instead, I fought to find it. Fought for Anderson. I have since I met him. With each word I speak, my passion and determination mounts, and I will continue to do so every day of my goddamn life. So, with all due respect, you can take your proposal and shove it up your ass. I whirl around, storming off, my heart pounding so furiously I'm confident it's about to burst through the walls of my chest. I clench and unclench my fists, grinding my teeth hard. As I approach the gated arch at the entrance to the rose garden, I stop and turn to face Queen Veronica once more, her eyes still wide in utter dismay. With a trite smile, I curtsy, my motions more pronounced than necessary. Your Majesty. I hold my position for a beat, finding pleasure in her shell-shocked expression. Then I continue out of the garden, my entire body vibrating with fury. and perhaps a hint of regret. As I stomp toward the palace, my chief protection officer, Lieutenant O'Kelly, appears out of nowhere. If I were in a better mood, I'd ask if they're all wizards, like in Harry Potter, and have learned how to apparate. If I do say so, ma'am. He begins once we're a safe distance away. That was a bloody brilliant show. I laugh under my breath, adrenaline still pumping through me. I can't believe I just told Anderson's grandmother, the Queen Mother, to shove it up her ass. It's completely out of character for me. Then again, all bets are off when it comes to Anderson. When we approach the doors to the palace, Lieutenant O'Kelly touches my shoulder, and I stop. He narrows his eyes on me. I hope you're prepared. Though, for what you just made an enemy out of the Queen Mother. Rest assured, she's not going to make your life all that easy going forward. Great.